In this video, we'll be discussing integers and absolute value. An integer is a positive or negative whole number. An integer cannot be a decimal. So it has to be a whole number. So a positive integer is a number that is greater than 0, and a negative integer is a number that is less than 0. And then another thing that goes along with integers is what's called absolute value. So the absolute value is the distance from 0 on a number line, and make sure you added in that value piece. And an absolute value looks like this. It has 2 bars and then a number will be inside. So the absolute value of 2, the distance of 0 from, or 2 on the number line is 2 because it's 2 spaces away. So you can show that an integer is positive by writing a plus sign in front of it. If an integer other than 0 does not have a sign, it is assumed to be positive. So we've always been working with positive numbers. We just never really referred to them as positive. And then you can also show that an integer is negative by writing a negative sign in front of it. So this 2 right here is a negative 2, and this 2 here is a positive 2. And this right here is 0. Now 0 is special because it is the middle of the number line. And because 0 sits at the middle of the number line, it is neither positive nor negative. So we're going to write that neither positive nor negative. All right, so let's look down below and let's sort out some positive and negative integers. Well, if we look at 12 with that sign in front, that's a negative 12, so we're going to put that there. This is a 7, it's positive 7. This is 14, it's positive 14. This is negative 9. Okay, I want you to pause right here. I want you to try the last 6 on your own. Okay, this one is a negative 22, a positive 17, a positive 29, a positive 50, negative 1, and a positive 4. So the next thing we need to determine if the numbers are integers. And remember we said that an integer cannot be a decimal, and we talked about that on our definition page. So an integer cannot be a decimal. So if we look at this, we have a negative 5. It's a whole number, so yes, it is an integer. If we look at this, 2.5, it's a decimal, so it cannot be an integer. Now, this is a negative, but it's a negative decimal, and we can't have decimals when we're working with integers. This one I need to solve. 10 divided by 5. 10 divided by 5 is 2. 2 is a whole number, so yes, 10 over 5 is an integer. 4 is a whole number, so yes, 4 is an integer. 1/2. If I think in my head what the decimal of 1/2 is, it's going to be 0.5. If you don't know that, you could do 1 divided by 2. Doesn't go in, give it a decimal. Goes in 5 times. Should be 10 and subtract and I get 0. So I get 0.5. So that's a decimal, so it's not an integer. I want you to try the last 4 on your own. Pause the video here, do the last 4. So 3.1, that's a decimal, so that's not an integer. Negative 3 is a whole number, so it is. 7 is a whole number, and so is negative 50. Okay, if we look at the next section, it says determine the absolute value of the following numbers. Remember, absolute value is the distance from 0 on a number line. The other thing you can think of is absolute value is always positive. Because a distance always has to be positive. So the absolute value of 10 is going to be 10 because 10 is 10 spaces away from 0 on a number line. The absolute value of negative 62 is going to be positive 62. The absolute value of 29 will be 29. It's 29 spaces away. The absolute value of negative 8 is going to be 8. The absolute value of 25 is going to be 25. Now don't get tricked with the ones that are already positive and turn them into negative. That's the biggest mistake that students make. Make sure they stay as positive numbers. The absolute value of negative 1/2 is just 1/2. You do the last 3 on your own. This one here would just be 2.5. This one's going to be 47, and this one's just going to be 15. All right, our last section we're going to go over, it says use the number line to help you order the integers from least to greatest. Remember to take the absolute value of the numbers first if you need to. So right here I have the absolute value of 2, so I'm going to make that 2 because that's what the absolute value of 2 is. And I'm going to plot these on the number line just so I can get some practice. So this is negative 6, and then I have negative 9, and then I have 7, and then I have this 2 here. So when I order this from least to greatest, my least number would be negative 9, then negative 6, then 2, and then 7. Please remember you always put it back into its original form, so this should really be the absolute value of 2 because that's how it's given to us. If we look at number 11, we have 2 numbers that we need to take the absolute value of. The absolute value of negative 2 is 2. The absolute value of 3 is 3. If I put these all on the number line, I have 2, 8, negative 3, positive 3. Remember, I'm going from least to greatest, so it's negative 3, 2, 3, and 8. Put them back into original form. So this should be negative with absolute value, and this one should have also absolute value with it. You do number 12 on your own. So for number 12, this should become 9. If I plot the points on here, I have 9, 7, negative 7, and 3. Least to greatest, it would be negative 7, 3, 7, 9. Put them back into original form, so the 9 needs absolute value.